right, this is Patrick Rogers here, and welcome to the Exitable Business Podcast, where we discuss how to create enterprise value all of the time, how to double and triple the value of your business now, not just when it's time to sell or when you get an offer. Welcome to episode 12, and in today, we have the privilege of hosting Luke Stanton on the show. Luke is the CEO and founder of Save Around. Welcome to the show, Luke.
Thank you, Pat. Appreciate it.
Oh, yeah, absolutely. And you guys are going to be so excited. Luke, just to talk a little bit about Luke, lives in Binghamton, New York, comes from a family and a long line of entrepreneurs, absolutely loves being a part of family business. Luke actually started Save Around in 2004. And Save Around, it's a very successful coupon book model company in business, and has successfully now grown the company over that time to over 10 million in annual revenue and 60 employees. So we're pay attention, guys. We're going to have a lot of stuff to learn from Luke, a lot of good things. And Luke, I always like to start it off with, kind of the icebreaker thing, right? What's one thing, Luke, that an interesting fact that maybe not a lot of people know about you?
Man, that's a good one. Really have a passion for family, faith, and sports. So I think the three offers some huge value that you can put towards your business career. And those three are just important for our family.
That's so awesome. I know we were talking a little bit before that you have 6 kiddos, and my hat's off to you, man. I just think that's so awesome that family is so important and in your family.
Yeah, we're blessed to have 6 little ones. My oldest is a teenager now, 2 of them, and so time goes by quick. But yeah, they really get you thinking different, and you can apply all the learnings to your how you build your business and how you build your family of employees.
It's kind of funny you say that. My daughter, well, she's 19 now. My kids are, empty nested, but my daughter, she's taught me so much about business. Just, the relationship you end up, the things you foster at home, they carry over into work as well. And so I can definitely know what you're talking about there.
Yeah, for sure.
Yeah. So Luke, you started it right out of college almost 20 years ago. If you would share with us a little bit more about your journey that's led you to where you are today, and a little bit more about Save Around.
Sure. Come from a family of people who are not only in the education space, but in sports. My parents were educators, dad and mom. And my father was a big football player, played locally and in some semi-pro leagues. And
Oh, wow.
Yeah, so he fostered a big athletic background, and between the educational piece and the sports piece, it was a mixture. Probably back then, he didn't realize it, but it formed a really interesting and successful entrepreneur in himself.
Oh, very cool.
They liked family, so had a big family, 7 kids, and were teachers, making teacher salary, trying to figure out how to feed 7 kids, and landed on an opportunity in the 70s and 80s to do school fundraising, and started off a coupon book called Dynamite that he started in the early 70s and grew that into the mid 90s before they exited the space and sold it. But had a good 20-year run at it, and was very successful in doing that and having a supplementary income to his educational salary to raise his family. And
wow.
I learned a ton at the time.
Yeah, very cool. So did your dad sell the business, or did you just shut it down? Or
yeah, they sold it to it was a sale in the mid 90s that they sold to their number one competitor.
Yeah, that's so cool. Like, so many parents or so many kids almost like want to do the opposite of what their parents did, unless that relationship is just so good and so amazing. So obviously you guys have a very strong relationship.
Yeah, I learned a ton from him. I was in my teenage years when they sold, but seeing that and looking back and some of the work ethic that I got to be a part of since I can remember, being 3 and 4 years old and smelling the coupon books come fresh off the presses.
Yeah.
It was interesting, but yeah, we were very fortunate to be a part of that and learned a ton.
So we're going to get into what's been your lessons learned since starting up Save Around. But what would you say is the 1 or 2 things that you learned from your dad that really helped you be successful? Maybe they're the same things. I don't know.
I would say discipline, like following your goals, like your aspirations to win. They're kind of a hybrid. That end game of being successful and having a goal to get there. And because we're sports people, we always look at things as winning and losing. So, having that goal and setting yourself out to accomplish that goal. And then to do that, you realize quickly as you start your own business and then looking back then the business he created, how important the team was. And that team being, whether it's family members working with you, friends, or when you get big enough and you can support employees.
Yeah. So a lot of people say, "Oh, never do business with family." It's like because I think the natural fear is, right, you bring on a family member and then they don't jive towards expectations. They're not meeting expectations. And now you have kind of this like, or same with friends, right? Same reason you don't loan friends money. Talk a little bit more about that. How do you guys handle those interpersonal relationships or challenges when they arise?
Yeah, the family's been thankful and blessed to just get along. We can kind of look past each other's differences and realize, this person's bringing a certain value to the table and try to weigh on their strengths. And on the weaknesses side, again, we've had people around us that realize they've got a weakness in some area of business, and they look for experts or people who have a better strength in that weakness to support that. So we kind of gotten over, one person has to do it all and working collectively together, to support each other. And again, it goes back to your goal. If you have a goal and a mission and you focus on that and you put that first, you can kind of get some of the noise out of the way.
Yeah, very cool. So you've kind of talked about this sports thing for a number of time. Tell me more about that. You mean just like the kids are huge into sports, and so you guys are supporting that, or are you like a raving sports nut fan, or maybe both?
Yeah, probably both. I guess different stages of life. You're playing. I'm not playing as much. I'm 40, so.
Oh, okay. So you used to play even throughout your adult, life.
Yeah, mid and late 20s. I played, football in high school, basketball through, summer leagues and stuff like that. And then
cool.
I'm a big golfer and really enjoy golf. But the sports piece, I guess it really, there's so many synergies between sports. I remember in high school, our football coach would always talk about, you got 11 guys on the field and I was a quarterback, and if one person makes a mistake, it brings down the whole team. And you realize quickly in business, if you got a weak spot and you don't fix that and solve that and get that person better, it's going to hurt the entire organization, whether it's, what some people consider a front end, they're answering phones or they're shipping product and people don't see that person a lot, or it's very in front of people with a salesperson and, you're face of the organization. So you've got to just keep everybody on top of their game. And that's where kind of that synergy and crossover is, for me, at least with football and specifically with business.
Yeah. The weakest link, right? If there's a weak link, then it takes down the whole team.
Yeah. Same with the strength, right? You got a person there who's excelling. I think the reverse is true as well. You got a person who's a superstar athlete and all of a sudden it's like, how do we, expose that person? How do we get that person's energy and their strengths talking to people to lift them up? And motivate them.
I love where you're going with this. If you would keep going, tell me more, like what do you do inside your organization to expose those strengths and try to, spread that to the people?
Yeah, you get FaceTime. You get people talking, whether it's in person, Zoom meetings like this,
Okay.
a lot of newsletters. So you're always trying to look at, in our organization, we're trying to look at, where are we having successes? Because those are fun to talk about. Those are what, gets people up in the morning and wants to, excel.
Yeah, everybody loves to talk about their successes.
Yeah, and so you're trying to find those pieces within your team, and who's doing things on a daily basis that's working well. And then it's not as much as putting that person in front of I think the rest of the team. It's more like letting them share their story, asking questions, letting them elaborate on how they're working well and what they're doing. And then what we're finding is people on our team will take not the whole thing, but they'll take pieces of it.
Yeah.
And then they'll apply it to their own scenario and make it their own.
Huh. So when they share their story, what you mean, what do you mean by that? Like in front of, you kind of said not in front of the whole team, but like, how does their story get out in team meetings or like through the newsletter that goes out to the entire company or?
Oh, yeah, it's a combination.
Okay.
you find a strength. You have a person on the team, for example, who won't quit until the product's shipped. Well, there's a lot that you can learn from that and apply it to really all different fields. You have somebody who gets the job done on time, gets it done before their time runs out, and gets it done with quality. So you just have them tell that story, and you ask some questions to them, and let them just tell that real history and real example of what's going on to the rest of the team, or to specific people who maybe you see that, hey, they kind of need this, they need that piece that's missing.
Yeah.
And so you're connecting the dots as a manager to those people.
Well, and I think it's interesting the way you're doing it too, because most managers might, like, in front of a team meeting, or if there's, everybody's there, the manager might, pull that person out, or talk about them, but the manager usually does the talking about what they did good. And it sounds like, hey, the real power that you're seeing, if I'm hearing you correctly, is you'll bring it up surface level, but then you turn it over to that employee, and that's really where the power comes.
Yeah, people know enough about myself, my family. They don't need to hear a lot about me anymore. We got to where we are because of our employees. I mean, I obviously, myself, my brother, father, sister, got the business going. But the reason we've had success, and we got through the pandemic, and years of good and bad, you have a good team, and so you need to bring them in to be part of that, and everybody's on an equal playing field. Like, let's huddle up, let's call the plays, have a goal in mind, and let's win. Let's have a winning season.
Yeah, but I love that is because, I mean, I think that's such a big difference. It doesn't seem like it's a big difference in the way we're talking right now, but when you envision what most CEOs will do, they do all the talking, and in this, they just bring it up and turn it over and tell the story. I think it's a small distinction, or a small difference, but a huge distinction in the effect, not only for everybody else, but probably for that employee themselves. People love to talk about themselves, and it gives them the spotlight. So that's cool, man.
Yeah, I think it makes it feel real. It makes it feel like they're part of something.
Okay, awesome. And these are these things like this, just as we're organically talking, like small little pockets of nuggets, in my opinion, that come out that make, in my opinion, a huge difference in how companies' cultures are run, and small. One of the reasons why you're at 60 employees and 10 million, and and still growing. So yeah. So Luke, what would you say, as we kind of dig in, you obviously very successful, people rally around you. What do you think has been the keys to your success in Save Around?
Not being afraid to make mistakes and learning from those. I think that's a key. You sometimes get so caught up in trying to make the right decision that it makes you stall. You got to have just that passion to chase what you're doing and say, you know what, even if this is wrong, I'm going to go forward and prove it out, and not go too deep as well. Because if you go too down a path that's wrong, you're going to lose a lot of money. And we've done that mistake before.
Okay.
So it's kind of learning from those, different decisions you make, and then just not being afraid, though, just make a decision. And I say mistakes, but really, if I can make 10 decisions and half of them are right, we're probably going to have a pretty darn good year.
Yeah.
And so it's a matter of calculating when that decision's wrong and cutting it off, and not letting it cannibalize the organization and distract, be a time sucker and distract from everything. And so being able to make decisions and just go. And I think your team starts to enjoy that. They respect that, because they don't want hesitancy. Last thing someone wants is to come into a job where they don't know firmly what direction they're going or what they're doing today. So if you can make a decision, good, bad, or indifferent, and then go and then explain as you're changing decisions, explain to your team why.
Yeah.
That why factor's a big piece too.
What led you to the decision to change a decision?
Yeah.
Do you feel like that's your ability to make decisions has improved over the years? I mean, it's probably a pretty common sense question, but I'd love to dig in and kind of just, if that is true for you.
I think life experiences changes how you make the decisions. 10 years ago, I probably would have made different decisions than I'm making today. And there's a lot of factors that come into play with that, between not only your business learning and knowledge, but where you're at with your personal career, your professional career. So it's hard to say like you become necessarily better. I think you're always striving to have more wins and losses and being over that 50% mark.
Yeah.
Um, and so your view of how you make the decision and what that decision ultimately is different. You're obviously growing as a person, and you're maturing, and your decision making hopefully is getting better because of the experiences you had.
Sure.
But I can't say necessarily one's better or worse. I just think you're looking at a bigger scope of things and a broader picture.
Right.
And you're taking all those experiences you had, you're trying to calculate all those and ultimately think you're making a better predictable decision for where you're trying to go. One thing that has improved, I think, for myself and the organization in doing that and getting to those decisions, having a clearer vision on where we want to go over these next, over the next fiscal year. So having that game plan, having that goal for us and for me has helped drive just making decisions quicker.
Yeah, right. If you have a clear path for where you want to go, you can make most of your decisions. Are they in alignment with where we want to go? Yes, good. If not, then the answer is no, right? It's not always give you black and white like that, but
agree. No, agree.
Okay, awesome. And so do you feel like your team as well? Do you feel like your team has been able to improve on their decision-making capabilities as well over the years?
I never asked them that question, but I would say from viewing it and watching the successes, I mean, just purely based on their success, the managers that we have, we've been very fortunate to have good people. And so watching their success is over time, you're talking a 1 year, 2 year, talking 5, 10 years. It's really awesome to see them excel in the field of their expertise. And that's been really, really gratifying to see as an owner.
Yeah. Anything that you do or that you can think of where you kind of help them to become better decision makers?
Yeah. Giving them that leeway of not being afraid to fail.
Yeah. Removing the fear of retribution from them.
Yep. Not feeling like they're lying, the job's on the line because of a mistake, and putting that in perspective in the big picture. And making it a learning, because we're all going to make bad decisions. I mean, myself included, you're going to make decisions that aren't the right one.
Yeah.
And so it's, how do you learn from that? How do you expose that to the team? How do you explain to your management team, hey, I'm happy you made a decision, but next time let's try to do it this way, and here's why.
Yeah.
And then they get it, and then they kind of apply that, over the next few decisions they make. And so giving them that leeway's been, I think, has really helped them.
Awesome. So it's you turn them into learning opportunities instead of rubbing their nose in it.
Yeah. Yep. And then also you want them to feel like they own it, like it's theirs. It's their idea. It's their their way of doing it. And then ultimately, I think they're going to really support that.
Yeah.
We're seeing that because it's, they have some more skin in the game. The passion and gratification behind that. Sure. And then we're just simply, you look at it, what's interesting in business, you're looking at what the role really is of an owner. And in my opinion, is really to have some high level goals and aspirations and vision. But it's really about supporting that team around you and lifting them up to run and to excel.
Awesome.
And that's how you can, that's how I feel you can really scale.
Yeah, I can't agree more, man. Not most, but many CEOs will think that their team is there to serve them. And it sounds like from hearing it correctly, the more I can serve and support them towards a common goal, that's where I get success.
Absolutely. Yeah. What can we do to support them? That's well said.
Very cool. Yeah. So not making mistakes. Wow. We propagated down there, not making mistakes, to clear visions, to decision making, and really owning it. So many awesome nuggets right there. What else do you think, Luke, has been some of the keys to your success over the last, almost 20 years now?
Balance, I think all entrepreneurs work a lot. It's hard to put work down when you get into your personal
Mm,
life. And
mm,
so as I've grown our family and I've got a great wife and kids, it's finding that balance. And for me, the last 15 years with kids has really been about not, harping on those smaller mistakes and those smaller losses and kind of putting that to bed a little bit
mm.
and being a dad, being a husband.
Yeah. So, so when you say that, not harping on the small things, what do you mean by that? Like at work, like just really
Yeah, yeah,
focusing on the big things?
yeah. So you got, in work, you got big decisions that are, for me, annual goals, for us, I should say annual goals and where we're trying to go and take the business long term.
Right.
But during that journey, you've got all these things that come up. You
Yeah.
have just, again, wins and losses. You've got stuff with employees, stuff with independents. You
Sure.
have all these things that just come up.
Yeah.
And so in the younger years when we were starting this, you really focused, for me, it was really focusing on those things. And those little things would kind of nip at you. And
Mm,
as I realized, wait a minute, I've got this part of my life, which is the family life. You
mm.
can't let those little things, fester and stir. They're important, but you start to put them in perspective.
Yeah.
And I felt like what that did for us is it focused me on making sure that I had the end goal in mind.
Okay.
And so it's funny, you think the work balance is balanced in work first, and your family is balanced there too with it.
Right.
But actually, for me, it was reversed. It was almost like I was so focused on work when I was single. Then I got
Uh-huh.
married. Then I had a family.
Right.
It's kind of like my family put work in perspective.
Yeah.
And
No, it totally does.
it
Yeah. Okay.
yeah, so that and you learn, right? You had to, because otherwise you're gonna probably not be happy with what you're doing. So, by doing that, you start to say, you know what, don't sweat the small stuff, but the little things kind of roll over your shoulders. And yes, you got to fix them. You can't ignore them, but you got to
Sure.
fix those things, and get better. But don't focus so much on those. Focus on the end game. Put in perspective. And so that's really the goal, is how are we trying to win this year and how do we get there?
Yeah. I mean, it sounds like, almost some Stephen Covey first things first, where he had the jar and he put in the pebbles and then the rocks afterwards and they didn't fit. And then if you put in the big rocks first, right, and you focused on the
Yeah.
big rocks, everything fit with the pebbles and the water and then some more. It sounds like, hey, focus as a CEO, we have to focus on the big rocks. Or else the pebbles or the little things will just divert us all over the place and we never accomplish what we want to accomplish, much less have a work-life balance.
Yeah. Yeah. And when you look at the probably two other things that come to mind in that same realm is attitude.
Mm,
Having people look at the owners as the face of the company, and you
yeah.
realize, if you're having a bad day and you show that,
Mm,
your team is seeing that. And
yeah.
so you got to bring that attitude first, put all that other stuff outside, even the small things, and have a good attitude, number one. And your coworkers around you like that, and I think they strive off of that.
Yeah.
So that's been a big one.
So the attitude then, walk me through, like, I mean, it almost sounds like energy, right? The energy level that you bring, attitude, negative, positive. Um, what happens if you come to work and you do bring that negative attitude with you? How does that affect the rest of the company?
Well, first is you don't know, because
Mm,
you don't have an employee that comes in and says, "Quit acting like a," you know what, your energy level sucks today.
yeah,
You're the head coach, and
that's true. Yeah. They don't really challenge the head coach too much.
so the way you realize that is you reflect and you start thinking, oh,
Mm,
this day happened this way.
yeah.
You know, quit making excuses. What can I do better?
Yeah.
And when you start realizing that, and again, putting things in perspective, these little things aren't the end of the world. You've been through similar, situations. Here's how you get past that. And then you start saying, well, if I was negative, and, I shut my door one day, or I just didn't talk to people as much because I had stuff, you're thinking about stuff. You start realizing, man, that's not helping.
No.
How's that helping my team get better? Like, quit being,
Yeah.
quit acting like an idiot.
Wow. So,
So
so it
attitudes,
almost,
energy and attitude is big.
yeah. So it's basically, you say, reflect on your own self, having the awareness towards the energy that you're bringing to your team and the company.
Yeah, because hey, at the end of the day, you're responsible for payroll,
Yeah.
right? You're paying
Really? Yeah.
people to win and to have fun. And so if you want the most out of those people and to have the most effective payroll,
Yep.
it's going to help by being a miserable leader or a miserable boss or owner,
Yeah.
because you're not going to get a full product and a productive day out of them. So
No. Yeah.
business standpoint doesn't make any sense. But then long-term vision wise, people don't want to be around, an unhappy environment. So you got to
Yeah.
come in here, have fun, be happy. And that's where the learnings today aren't as much as about, getting upset at a decision or an end result. It's more about, hey, let's learn about this and let's make a positive out of the negative.
Love that, man. That's awesome.
Yeah.
If every company had that kind of an attitude, we'd have nothing but just amazingly happy, positive, optimistic company cultures out there. And maybe someday we will.
No, it's what makes it fun, but it takes time. You gotta, when you're looking at younger CEOs and younger owners, you
Yeah.
go through different phases. I don't think it's something you can just tell somebody. They got to experience it
Yeah.
and
Yeah.
learn from, and hopefully get to that result a little bit quicker.
Yeah. How many people have you had to fire over the years?
Well, not a whole lot. I would
Okay.
not a whole lot. I don't consider when we sit down with somebody and it's not a good fit.
Uh-huh.
We have this thing where we try to have a discussion with all the employees over any topics where it's open discussion.
Yeah.
And so when you're talking to somebody who you just know is not a good fit, or maybe you don't know, but they're just not excelling, and ultimately they need to leave.
Yeah.
It's more
This
of
is
like, hey,
this is in the candidate stage, or somebody who's actually an employee now?
someone who's someone who's an employee.
Okay.
So you hire people and you think it's a good fit, and at the end of the day you try it and it's not, whether it's not for them or it's not for the company or both. But so most of the people who have left the business, I believe, have been
Yeah.
more, it's just not a good fit for them or us, and it's about talking to them. And we typically don't have a policy where we're terminating somebody and they leave that day. It's more like, hey, you don't seem too happy here. These strengths aren't working as well. We thought they were going to be. What if we tried to help you find something that's going to make you happier and more satisfied?
Wow. Yeah, love that.
And because they're good people. I mean, at the end of the day, we're all humans, and people I believe are in their core good people, good human natured people. A majority. And so because of that, it's you create these relationships with people, and you want to see them succeed, even if you're missing. We had a couple of people where they were good, talented people, and all of a sudden it's just not a good fit, or they don't, it's not a good fit for them, even though we'd love to selfishly keep them. And you figure out a transition and letting them find a career. And to this day, we've been friends with those people, and they've done very well for themselves, and we found good replacements. So it worked out for both.
Yeah. That's awesome. Versus the corporate America, right? Traditional is they hand them their 2 weeks notice, or not 2 weeks notice, but their pink slip on a Friday afternoon and say, see you later. That's just
Tough.
that's horrible. That's tough, man.
Yeah. I just don't know if treating people that way it's just not, I understand there's certain circumstances you got to do that, and that's part of the role. But in general, when you hire someone, you got a good person, you want to see them do well. Because we're here short. I mean, you're gonna retire in 20, 25 years typically after you work for some place. So that goes by so quick. It doesn't have to be that negative during a transition. It should be a positive. It really should. You're helping them get a better career path, and you're hopefully making your organization better.
Yeah. Yeah.
So I don't know if that answers your question directly, but
yeah, totally. I mean, this is all good that we're having fun, right? So when you do look for people, Luke, what are the things that you look for when you have an open position, you're interviewing? What are the most important couple things to you guys?
Someone who wants, you can sense when you meet with somebody if they have that energy where they want to succeed and have a goal and succeed with it. Like, you can just sense it. I don't know.
Mm,
I can't put a phrase around it, but when I talk with somebody, I think there's two types of people when it comes down to working. You have people who want that routine 8 to 5
right.
job.
Right.
Both first off, let me set it here. Both are okay. Like neither
Sure.
one's good or bad or
Okay.
better than the other. But I think fundamentally, I've experienced there's been people who want that routine 8 to 5
Yeah.
hour lunch, very
Right.
rigid,
Right.
and then you have others who want more open and risk and reward.
Mm,
and
yeah.
and so you kind of figure that out. And typically, you can figure that out with the type of person you're hiring. If you're hiring
Sure.
someone for an operational role, typically a sales rep doesn't come for that. But you'd be
Yeah.
surprised at how many people we hired for operations that turned into sales reps.
Oh, okay.
Uh,
Interesting.
and sometimes vice versa. People think they're good at sales and they quickly realize sales isn't an 8 to 5 job.
Yeah.
So both have happened. But yeah, I think it's between the two. You got operations, specialists, and then you have sales specialists.
Yeah, it's very interesting. You kind of brought up the operations. Sometimes you bring them in operations, they never go into sales. And the preconceived notion to a lot of people is that salespeople are these, extroverts and overly boisterous and all that kind of stuff. And what are your thoughts on that?
I whatever the most recent book headline that's popular, that kind of is the sales term for that month. For us, I found that a good salesperson is someone who cares about people and
Mm,
likes to cultivate relationships. And so
yep.
that's where
Love it.
operationally people, they might be a little worried to get into sales because they think it's that old, used car salesman or door-to-door pitch. And
Right.
for our industry, it's not. It's create a relationship, get an answer, and move on to the next prospect. And what we see in our industry, because we deal with customers, and we're very fortunate for this on an annual basis. And so you really need a relationship manager slash
Right.
salesperson. And
Right.
so it's probably a little different than other industries, but for us, it's really been a relationship first type of person to understand that we're an annual sales product.
Right.
And if you don't create that base and get enough renewals every year, you
Mm,
can't grow.
yeah.
And so you
Yeah.
really got to put customer first, and that's huge.
Yeah.
And
Yeah.
so that's where there's crossover for us on an operations person realizing, okay, I can actually do company sales.
Yeah. Yeah, totally. Very cool. And it depends on the sales model, right? There's some sales models where they're just killers, they're hunters, right? And they just want blood.
Sure.
Well, you don't want those people out cultivating relationships, they're probably not going to do very well at it. But the people that can close and maintain, and they have that skill set, which are pretty, I won't say rare breed, but they're out there.
Yeah, no, they are. I wish they weren't because it'd make business growing easier, but it's
Yeah.
hard to find good people.
Yeah.
When you do, you got to keep them, and that's what really grows your business is sales, obviously. So, as the sales grows, the staff can grow, and
Yeah.
you got to find those good salespeople. But in our business, like you said, it's really cultivating that relationship. It's not a heavy salesy pitch.
Yeah. Yeah. You get it. What does it cost? Like 8 times as much to get a new client versus keep the ones you have,
Yeah.
depending on the industry, something like 5 to 8 times.
Yep.
Awesome.
Yeah, and you look at our average customer, I think stays with us roughly around 7 years. So you got, once you seal them and you get the relationship built and that partnership built, you've got essentially 7 years of revenue stream coming in.
Yeah.
So it's important, and it takes a couple of years sometimes to get customers. And so that's balancing all that stuff together. And that's where our salespeople, you really want a team that's dedicated to stay, for a while in this business. Because they generate relationships with a person, and it takes a couple of years. Next thing you know, if they're not here, you're starting from ground zero again with the same prospect, and
Yeah.
so that makes that much longer to close the sale.
Yeah. Wow, man, we've been hitting all kinds of different angles. Is there any other top things that you think has been some of the keys to your success, or have we've been nailing them right off the list as we go?
No, I think so far, we're hitting them.
Okay, cool.
Yeah, we're rolling, man.
Yeah. So you know, one of the things you had kind of talked about before is that your school, you were a business major. kind of helped you with the finance aspect of it. Not many CEOs that I've talked to kind of have that background. Many of them are not even MBAs, that they I don't know how, there's some $5-10 million CEOs don't even really look at their P&Ls much, balance sheet especially. Tell us a little bit about how that's helped you and currently helps you.
Yeah, so I was not a good scholastic student per se. I missed a lot of school in high school. I passed. I had decent grades, but I just didn't enjoy sitting in the classroom listening to lectures, tests. That wasn't. I don't know. I just never really
Wasn't your
sat.
bailiwick.
No. So, however, I realized watching my brother and father and sister succeed in business that you gotta have knowledge and you gotta learn. So decided to took some time off after I graduated from high school and went to a junior college locally, focused on business and took a lot of business classes. And that's where I started realizing I like numbers, I like math, and started
Yeah.
realizing the importance of a balance sheet and a P&L.
Mm-hmm.
Not necessarily the importance in a sense of you have to have them and there's a specific template, but they give you some insights to how your business is trending. And it gives you some awareness to where you need to focus more and less on and some long-term strategy. And then as you get that transpire now as you're growing, you're going to have to grow and most likely get some type of financial partner, whether that's traditional banking, line of credit, private funding, equity. So you really need to understand how those things work in order to execute on that funding properly. And once you start borrowing money, it's not your money anymore. Now you're on the hook for.
You're responsible to somebody else. Yeah.
Yeah. And so you want to understand it well. And so that's where that education really helped me. And then I jumped in a year and a half after going to school, going to junior college. I jumped in a year and a half into starting our own business.
Yeah.
And applying that. And so that's when you really get a lot of knowledge.
Right.
You're learning from your own business.
Absolutely. What would you say, if you were, if you could only have 1 or 2 KPIs, if you're on like a deserted island, right? A deserted island, you could only get 1 email a week with 1 or 2 KPIs. Let's just start with 1 KPI. What would it be for your company?
Man, that's
that's a
the one that comes to the top of mind is because I like to grow sales and I like sales is outreach. How many touch points did we have? How many people did we reach out to effectively? Because I know that's kind of downstream.
Awesome.
Bring in customers. So that outreach, if you're not reaching out to customers, you're not going to generate revenue.
Gotcha. Yeah, you're not going to grow, right?
Yeah.
Okay.
So that what we call touch points is a big one.
Okay. And you guys keep track of that on a regular basis?
Yeah, new outreach, existing customers, and there's a balancing act of frequency and is it email versus text versus phone call. So you got to figure that all out for your industry and what you're trying to accomplish. But if you don't have enough, there, you're not going to get enough sales, and so you got to have enough influence.
Yeah, that's awesome. I mean, it's getting new sales, but it's also maintaining the relationship, and that's where it falls apart is when you start, disappearing and just not showing up for the customer, and you lose that trust over time.
Absolutely. I think I read one time, I don't know if this is true, but it stuck with me. There's like 11 touch points that you need to make out before a decision's made.
Yeah. Yeah, totally.
Even if it's 6 or 7, it's still, it's a lot. So you gotta have a system in place for, your new potential clients and making sure you're getting in front of them enough, but not too much to where it hurts the relationship and hurts the ability to close.
Awesome. Well, hey, Luke, it's been so awesome having you on the show. I mean, we went into so many areas that you and I hadn't even talked about beforehand. So it was really cool. I really enjoyed having you on. I mean, we dove into sales, hiring, firing, balance, how important that is, your attitude, energy levels, visions, mistake. I mean, decisions, such cool stuff. Let me ask you this, Luke. If you could only give one piece of advice to the younger CEO version of yourself, what would that be?
I'm going to have to say there's 2.
Okay, so let's have them.
I got to add one would be tough, but the 2 things that if I had to restart and go back saying, what would I do a little bit differently? The first would be listen more. And the second would be surround myself with people who are better than me.
Mm,
And I
love
think if
that.
I did those things earlier on, it could have
Wow.
helped our company that much ahead quicker.
Okay. Okay. So it almost sounds like just be the maximum version of humbleness that you can be.
Yeah, yeah, you gotta, if you want to excel, you gotta surround yourself with a good team and people who are experts, smarter than you are, and you don't have the answers to everything. So
Yeah.
the more you can figure that out, and then listening, listening to people, and part of that listening exercise is digesting it and then making a decision. When I say
Mm,
listen, I don't mean taking advice from everybody and applying what they're saying to everything, but flushing it out, listening, flushing out how you think it can help or hurt your business,
mm.
and put a action plan in motion.
Yeah. Kind of being an active listener versus passive, and then and really processing it and taking it in.
Yeah, yeah, yeah. Some of our best, some of our best ideas have stemmed from people who you'd be surprised are 2 or 3 steps disconnected from that result. Like, I had someone one time in our shipping department mention an idea on packages we were sending, and this
Yeah.
person had no idea about sales. They just had this thought, and they brought it up to me in conversation, and I was like, man, that's a great. We got to move on that. And so we
Sure.
did it, and I think it really fundamentally helped the organization. And so if that conversation never happened, we would have never
Mm,
taken that idea and put it in motion. So it's listening. And then you get ideas that you listen to, but you're like, what, that's not going to really work. So you have to
sure.
have the ability to make that decision. But
Yeah.
yeah, listening more and surrounding yourself with people who are, experts and just really good at what they do. I go back to golfing. I really love golf because it's an individual game, and it really
Yeah.
gets you thinking. And I used to really enjoy watching and playing with people who were scratch golfers or negative handicaps, because the way they approach the game, their pre-shot routine, what they
Mm,
do, hole by hole strategy, club selection, all these things. It was really cool to watch that game plan,
right.
and I would
Right.
pick up so many tips,
Yeah.
and it would just help me a little bit more. And so you take that with business. You surround yourself with people, and there's a lot of people out there willing to give advice to young entrepreneurs if you ask.
Yeah.
And I
Absolutely.
really suggest talking to other people who've been, retired entrepreneurs, people who've been successful, reaching out
Yeah.
and just saying, hey, can I pick your brain on a couple of topics that, maybe could help my business? And people are willing to help.
Awesome. Awesome. That's great advice, man. Um, Luke, how can people get a hold of you if they have any follow-up questions on any of these nuggets that you've shared, or your company services up in the Binghamton?
Sure. Email's best. It's luke@stavearound.com. You can put that up on the video. And
Cool.
yeah, check my emails like everybody else daily, every minute or so. But yeah, email's great. And if we get in a discussion, we can hop on a call. But any younger entrepreneurs out there that want to have a discussion, absolutely reach out.
Man, that's so cool. I know somebody out there will, and appreciate the offer for the listeners. And yeah, so again, this is Patrick Rogers with Luke Stanton on the Exitable Business Podcast. Please make sure to hit subscribe and like, and we'll see you on the next episode. Thanks a lot.
Thanks, Pat. Have a good one, man.
All right.